Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-driven CEO podcast. I got stuck there for my own podcast show. How funny. Welcome to the show, Khris Kennedy.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. All the way from Texas. So great to have you on the show. I'm really interested in, and I'm going to just do a real flip on this one. I'm going to be very formless in our conversation. I'm going to start with, before I even introduce you, and obviously your brand and your business is right in front of us here as a Focus Consulting Group. Before I get into that, though, I want to set the scene because when you booked in for the podcast, and I asked you what's one unique insight or lived experience when it comes to life leadership and or business. You said, I drive all my consulting business through one lens. Clarity is kindness. And I feel like that is going to be the total theme of our show today in terms of clarity is kindness. And, especially at this time of year, like we are in this crazy time of year. It always is like this time of year, and the more clarity we have, the more kinder we can be. And like I said, clarity is kindness as well. So without further ado, you're Chris, you're the founder of Focus Consulting Group. And essentially you work with businesses, executives, and teams to create that clarity, to increase their accountability and communicate with impact. And that's how you came to your mantra, which is clarity is kindness. And your footprint, your business's footprint and content point to practical leadership training and communication systems for small mid-market organizations. Tell us a bit about your journey because you've been in this space for like quite some time. You've got a wealth of experience, and no doubt you've seen a lot. But also, I'm keen to understand if you're noticing anything different more recently, or have you seen the same themes throughout your 20 plus year career in this space?
No, I mean, here's the thing, B. People are people. And so I haven't seen like this dramatic shift of what I used to coach people on compared to what they need to be coached on today. So I started in the nonprofit realm and was CEO of a large nonprofit, and then left the nonprofit deal and opened a little insurance agency, and it just exploded. And we were one of the largest privately held insurance agencies in the US. And so as a result, we had a ton of other insurance agents that were always calling me, wanting me to coach them up on how to expand their business and do all that kind of stuff. And so I started coaching those guys. And I told my wife one day about 5 years ago, I said, I have more fun watching these guys be successful than I even do our own stuff. And she goes, then why are we selling insurance? Because nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, I cannot wait to sell insurance. And so I went, yeah, why are we doing it? So we got rid of all the insurance agencies and we opened up Focus Consulting Group. And I thought honestly that I would just be coaching insurance agents for the rest of my life. And from there, this guy knows this guy who owns a company, and he's calling me going, hey, I know you've been working with Joe. Would you mind spending some time with me? And this guy knows the CEO of this company, and he does this. And all of a sudden, like I don't coach a single insurance agent anymore. And
Wow.
then from there, those guys that owned companies or were CEOs were asking me to come in and work with their teams and strategy and clarity and prioritization and all of those different kind of things. And so it moved much more into kind of a consulting deal. And so, yeah, it's one of those kind of deals where I kind of looked up and went, how in the world did I end up owning a consulting firm? I had to bring on other consultants that work for me now that are doing the same thing. And so I don't know. It was one of those kind of things where you just kind of turn around and all of a sudden you're running this big consulting firm and you go, I'm not sure how I got here. And
Yeah, that's cool.
so
It's very cool, and congratulations. I didn't realize you were niched in insurance, and then you've been niched in insurance for so long, and then all of a sudden, it's like here comes the evolution, if you like, and insurance is where you thought you'd always be, and it's completely not where you are now. It's a great story, but it also reminds me of the ability to adapt, innovate, and that we're not in control as much as we think we are we? Like when you kind of go, oh, how did I get here? Actually, clarity comes from that as well in terms of like, oh, actually, the more I hold on and the more I try and control things, and I actually would really love your thoughts on this, is that it never goes to plan. It's always when you surrender, you that's where you get the clarity, you get I guess, the fresh perspectives, and then it's like, look what's possible. Like, you know what I mean? What's your view?
So, I mean, in all honesty, I am a Christ follower. And so my worldview is shaped around this idea that there's a sovereign God who is in control of everything. And so my purpose is just to try to stay in the middle of his will. I don't propose to know what my road is. I know that the Lord does know what my road is. And so I only have a choice of whether I'm going to walk it kicking and screaming and trying to do it my own way, or just walk it with joy and see where he takes me. And so that's what I've decided to do with my life, is to live my life in joy and just hang on to his hand and see where the road takes us. And this is where it's taken us.
Yeah,
So,
interesting. And
um,
whether you're religious or not, I still believe that, we can hold on for dear life kicking and screaming, or we can actually have this ability. And it's not easy, like when we come from a place of ego, when we have this like desire to try and control everything. But I think the more we learn to, whether you're religious or not, whether you have that ability to, once you learn how to surrender, how to let go, and how to trust the process. So I want to get into a little bit around clarity is kindness, because it was quite profound when I was reading. I was like, and I'm getting such rich insights when I ask this question to everyone I'm interviewing on the show. Talk to me a little bit about clarity is kindness as your mantra, and then how, like, have you always had that mantra, like, or is that a new thing as part of the consulting group, or like, where did that come from? And then how do you apply it into the businesses and the leaders that you're working with?
so the thing that I've noticed, I noticed it when I owned my own business. I noticed it as I started coaching and consulting, that conflict and turmoil come from a lack of clarity. And yet, as leaders, we're so concerned with hurting somebody's feelings or overstepping our boundaries that we fail to give clarity to our people.
Mm,
Everything from the why behind, I'm asking you to do this thing, right? Hey, I need you to go do this, but I don't give you the kindness of the clarity of the why, of how it fits into the larger whole, for being able to communicate, hey, here are the ditches that I want you to stay in. As long as you stay in those ditches, in between those ditches, then you're going to be okay. It just, this whole thought that the clearer I am, the kinder it is to the people that work for me, because now they know how to go forward and be successful in what they do. And
yeah,
so and it also works in my own life, right? Right. When I learn to prioritize, because look, as business owners or executives, or you have 10,000 things on your plate, and people are wanting to put 1,000 things more on it every 30 minutes. And so learning how to prioritize in such a way that I have clarity on what's the most important thing that I should be working on right now, that's a kindness to my own heart. Right. And so that, I'm just big on the greater clarity we gain, whether we're giving clarity to the people that we work for, or whether we're giving clarity to ourselves and how we prioritize the most important things that we should be working on. Because sometimes the most important thing for me to do is not work and go be with my wife, or go be with my children or my grandchildren. And that's a kindness to me, to give myself permission to do that, to recognize that as a priority, and to say, then I'm going to go do it. Right. And so I'm just big on the greater clarity that you have, the more that you strive towards clarity, the more that you strive towards communicating clarity, that it's not actually mean to people. So that when I tell somebody, no, I've got to go spend time with my children, that's not mean to them. That's a kindness to them to know, A, look, here's somebody that's prioritizing time with their children or grandchildren, in my case, right? And but it's also a kindness to my children and my grandchildren when I go do it. And it's a kindness to me because I get to spend time with my children and my grandchildren. And then other times when I have to tell somebody, no, I can't work on that because this is the most important thing for me to be working on right now. It's a kindness to them to know, hey, I still care about your priority, but this is what I need to be focused on right now. That's a kindness to them. And it's a kindness to me because I can work on that thing that's most important. So I just am a big believer in communicating with clarity all the time, and and not viewing that as an insult to people, but actually as a kindness to them and a kindness to me. And I've just found that to be true across the board, that people don't get mad when you're clear.
Yeah,
um,
I love it. It's such a good reminder, and it's such a good reminder at this time of year as well, when, like we're at that, and we always seem to get here, don't we, where a lot of people are exhausted, and I think the more you can be clearer, the more kinder you can be to yourself. And like you say, people don't get mad at you. But what was quite profound that you were talking about is, and again, another good reminder is that ability to say no, set the boundaries, but and being kind to yourself, but then being present. So the ability to be present with, your life, and it's not just always work, 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 work. It's like that ability to be like, maybe I shouldn't just be working right now. Maybe my mind is, everything is, I've got too much going on. I need to step away to get the fresh perspective, because when I do step away, and when, like when you no doubt hang out with your little grandchildren, or when I'm, hanging out with my puppy, or my dog, I should say, or doing something that's non-related to work, you get such fresh perspective. You get such clarity, and then you can come back into the business, and you can be like, bang, like you jump into flow, and then next thing you're like solving something that you might have been stuck on. But I think quite often as leaders, and especially in businesses, we're just like pushing and trying to solve something, and it's like, step away, step away. That is a gift. That is kindness, like in totality, to be able to step away.
when you understand, like it all comes down to priorities, right? And so when I prioritize, if you say, hey, it is important for me, for my heart, for me to step away from work and to play with my dog for a while, that's a priority, and to place it there, not as something that is, I'm sacrificing work. I'm giving, by this kindness of giving myself this time away, I'm more effective when I re-engage with work.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And in the same way, when I'm looking at all of my to-do list and I prioritize it, and we teach them what we call them MCTs, right? Mission critical task. Mission critical task is
Yeah.
defined in three ways. Only you can do it. It drives the organization forward, and there are consequences if you don't do it. And so if I can identify those things, right? And really the hardest one to answer is, you're the only one that can do it. Really, you can't delegate that to somebody else. And so that clarity of, I'm the only one that can do this. And once I have that and I set it as a priority, well, now I can sit down and give my full energy to it. And I'm not worried about all this other noise that's around me. And so there's a kindness in my ability to focus in that moment. And so that for us, that's like, if you asked me what I work with executives with more than anything else, it is that ability to prioritize so that they can with kindness work to themselves, work on the thing which is most important. The word priority didn't show up in the English language until the 1500s, and it was always in the singular: priority, that which is most important. It wasn't until 100 years ago that Americans actually got fired up with it and went, no, we have to have more than one. And they started calling it priorities and made it a
Uh,
plural. But it doesn't even make any sense. Those things which are most important, like that doesn't make any sense, right?
yeah.
There's
I'm
always
writing it
a
down.
priority. And
Yeah.
so it's meant to be singular. And when I can gain a clear understanding of what is the priority here, and sometimes the priority is for me to be with my wife of 30 years. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah.
And for me to spend time with just her, connecting with her on a heart level. That's the priority, the most important thing. And so I can go do that. And it's a kindness to her, it's a kindness to me, right? But it all comes down to, what is your priority? Not what are your priorities. What's the most important thing that you should be doing in this moment? Have clarity on that, and it's a kindness to everybody else around you.
I love it so much. Tell me, what are you seeing right at this point in this very point in time, in terms of the biggest hurdles, obstacles, challenges, whatever you want to call them, that you're seeing that leaders and businesses are facing right now?
Well, that's a multifaceted question. If you're asking it in from a business perspective, what's the number one thing that I see businesses struggling with
Well, I think, yeah, I
is
say that because for me, leadership and business, they're like, they're connected, right? So that's why I kind of put the two together. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. So, I mean, the from a business perspective, it is middle and lower management, right? That we've not taught leadership. We've not taught how to lead people. And I have a client that graduated from the Horton School of Business with an MBA, and they had one leadership class. It was all about the hard skills. It was nothing about the soft skills of how to
Yeah.
lead people, right?
Fascinating. Yeah.
And so what we're finding is these C-suite people that we work with, we help them gain clarity on their values and their mission and all of those kind of things. And then that starts to trickle down. It gets to mid-management and it dissolves because they don't know how to lead people. They don't know how to communicate that message well. And by the time it gets to the lower level worker, they don't even know it. That's why
Yeah.
most companies, if you go to a low level worker and say, hey, tell me the company's core values, they'll just stare at you. They have no idea what the company's core values are, even though the C suite, man, they're singing it all the time, you know? And so that's really, we don't have a lot of good young leaders
Yeah.
because we're not teaching them the soft skills of leadership. Everything is about the hard skill right now. Learn how to work AI, learn how to do this, learn how to do that. And we're not spending the time to go, let's raise up some leaders that know how to lead people.
It's actually a really interesting point that you've called that out. And so then how do we lead the next gen of leaders? Like, what would you say is the first, if we're focusing so much on hard skills, like what soft skills do you think we need to be training the younger generations, middle managers on? Like, what do you think are the most important soft skills right now?
The most important soft skills right now communication. The young they're terrible at communication, and so teaching them how to communicate, how to have hard conversations.
Mm,
That's something that it's a lost art anymore because everything is either deep conflict or it's mamby-pamby, and we're not really accomplishing anything. And learning how to deal with people with empathy and respect, and treating people as such. I think that's a big one. But probably the number one, quite honestly, the lack of emotional intelligence that I see in young leaders is staggering. And it's quite honestly, though, it's because it's not being modeled to them. And so, if you were to ask me, how do we solve the problem? We solve the problem by the CEO coaches the C-suite and then expects that the C-suite coaches the next level down, who coach the next level down, who coach the next level down. You shouldn't have anybody in your organization that has somebody working for them that is not being coached and is coaching
mm.
so that those soft skills are moving downstream constantly.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Emotional intelligence. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, I mean, I know what emotional intelligence is, but like when you talk about, the up and comings and not being educated and understanding, how to apply soft skills in business. And it's really interesting because I was speaking to somebody else on the show about this the other day, not in a very different conversation, but like that, the fact that I was talking about, it's either hard skills or soft skills. And it's kind of and it's like we need to put the two together. Like they come hand in hand. Like you can't just focus on hard or you can't just, soft skills have always been a bit, oh, they're wishy-washy. There's no real like tangible ROI behind them or whatever. But they're the most important thing, if you ask me, especially when we're in this, revolution with tech, AI, etc. Like we need it more than ever because it's so critical. Like you look at the roles of the future and it's around critical thinking, problem solving, resilience, human potential. They're all soft skills,
Right.
know? And so I guess for me, emotional intelligence, I guess you're talking around this whole, the empathy piece, the like you say, the ability to have the hard conversations, etc. Is that what you're like, and then obviously communication with impact. Is that what you're referring to?
That's a lot of it. I mean, but what you just said, I mean, the difference between, most companies spend 90% of their time on the hard skills, right? The smart side of things. They spend very little time on the healthy side of things. And yet all of the studies show that a healthy team will beat a smart team every single day.
Mm.
It's the old adage that culture will eat strategy for lunch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so it's this idea that we spend so much time focusing on those hard skills, the smart side of things, and we don't spend any time talking about the healthy side of things. And the healthy side of things are all of the stuff that you just talked about, right? And emotional intelligence is one of them, but problem solving and being able to have good, like good, healthy debate. Like that's lost anymore. It's either my way or the highway. It's like I'm always just jockeying to get my way, opposed to saying, no, let's come in and collaborate together. Let's appreciate that you have skills that I don't have. You have thoughts that I don't have. You have ideas that I don't have. And I'm going to appreciate that in you. And we can do this together. And what we can do together is way more powerful than what any single talented person can accomplish on their own.
Yeah. So
And
true.
and they just the younger, I mean, look, I work with lots of C-suites that are so siloed, right? They don't know how to do it either. But you get downstream and that's really lost, which is so unusual because we live in a world with all of the social media and all of those kind of things that would make you think that we're intensely connected, and we're not. We're not connected on a real level, right? And that's what I mean by emotional intelligence, is that this ability to connect with somebody on a real level and to care for them as a person and their ideas as an individual, right? And to place value on them. Because if I place a value on you and you bring an idea to me, well, now I'm going to take that idea, at least consider it, see how I can incorporate it. But if you're just a name on a profile, right? If you're just this
Yeah.
bot,
Mm.
which is, I think, how we tend to view each other anymore, then yeah, I mean, we're never going to accomplish any of these. I'm always on an island.
Yeah, it's
And
yeah, we're about to. I think it kicks. I think it's. I can't remember if it's kicked in or not. But social media has been banned from 16 and below here in Australia. I'm not sure if it's happening in the US or not. But yeah, It'll be interesting to see what changes. There's still ways of getting around it. But I'm pretty sure. But like, it'll be very interesting to see what that changes in, the younger generations, the very much younger generations. But I guess for me, I think we've got a lot to like. We've got huge amounts of experience being in business and leadership for as long as we've both been in it. But I also think that as much as the younger generations don't have or haven't been coached or educated on the soft skills that you're talking about, I do think there's opportunity for us to also learn from them around, well, actually, what what other soft skills are required heading into the future, if that makes sense? So kind of bringing together, our experience, what we've learned, because there's a lot of people that are experienced that don't have the soft skills either. Like they just don't. Like they don't have the manners.
sure.
They just, like you talked around, it's their way or the highway. So kind of for me, what if we could reshape soft skills in their totality to then unite, like you're talking about, connect C-suite with the lower middle managers. I think that's an opportunity in itself. And like, especially with your mantra, clarity is kindness. Like, kindness is a huge soft skill, but yet in business, it's like, why would we want to teach somebody about kindness as such? Because again, people see that as that doesn't equal commercial impact or commercial, do you know what I mean? Growth. And it's like for me, but yet if we came from it where we were looking at it that it actually, by having the soft skills, the commercial results, the abundance follows. We need to bring the two together. And I think that's the real opportunity as we continue to head into this new paradigm of the world we're moving into.
You asked the question, B, how are we going to connect that next generation that has grown up on social media and all those kind of
Yeah,
things where I didn't grow up on social media. I mean, I remember the
neither.
first time I saw somebody texting and I was like, oh, that'll never take off. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so the way to do that is not for me to impose and say, hey, it's to go ask them how do you integrate into this? It again is collaborative, and I think
Yeah,
that
that's
that's
cool.
we always fall into this top down.
Yes.
I'm gonna impose, and instead of inviting them into our space and saying, you tell me how we do that. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you how I need it, but I need to
Yes.
hear from you how you need it. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
communication. The other way is just a monologue, and monologues aren't kind. So I don't. So the answer to that is I don't know because we haven't invited them in yet.
Yeah. But that for me is you've just come up with a bit of a solution in terms of invite them in. Like if there's one takeaway from this our show together, it's like our conversation. It's invite them in. Like be more inclusive. Like understand what makes them tick. Like, like when you start communicating. I mean, I've got nieces that are like 16 and 15, sorry, and 17, and like even like understanding how to communicate with them because like some days I'll be like they're not responding to my text or they're not returning my call, but then mum's like find them on Instagram or find them on this or that. Like, like it's so it really is like and I think this is the future of leadership in terms of like you focus a lot on communication with impact. Well, how am I going to get impact out of this up and coming? And what communication style is going to create the best impact? How do I bring the best out of people? How do I get them to shine their brightest? How do I get them to feel and perform at their best? Because ultimately, we want the business to thrive, right? We want it to be a high performing business and we want to be able to, let have work fit into our lives. So like we can then be able to get those fresh perspectives in and be able to have that, what I call life work flow as well.
Well, Nelson Mandela said, "You speak to a man's heart when you speak to him in his native tongue."
Yeah.
And so you speak B, I speak Chris. If I'm determined to only speak Chris, then you spend your whole time just trying to interpret what I have to say. If I can learn to speak B, right? Now we communicate so much better. But think about if you could learn to speak Chris and I learn to speak B, and when you're speaking to me, you're speaking Chris, and when I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking B. Think of how much more we could accomplish
Yeah,
together.
so cool. Yeah. And I like I mean I'm learning from you today, Chris, and like no, and hopefully you're getting some things from me as well. And I think that's what it's all about. Like it's that shared shared soft skilling, etc. Two quick questions for you, and then I'll let you get back to your evenings. I know it is Tuesday evening in Texas. It's Wednesday morning here. What would be, just coming back to clarity as kindness, what would be one, and I'm playing with this because we are at the end of the year and, everyone is in this mad rush and, I have to check myself some days as well. I'm just like, calm down. It doesn't have to all be like, what would be one tip or piece of advice you can give a leader right now in terms of how they could access more clarity to result in the kindness. Am I making sense with my question?
I think it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, and it's the idea of priorities, right? Is not priorities, but prioritization is what I meant
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah. I
And
was going to catch
so,
you on that. I'm like, you're
yeah,
just talking about one priority and you've
no,
just said priorities.
no, your prioritization is what I meant to say. Is prioritization is to sit down and really give the honest question, because look, the reason that we don't tend to give things away is either A, there's I'm really the only one that can do it and should do it, and B, which is appropriate, or B, they don't do it as well as I do it, and so I'm not going to give it to them, or C, there's nobody trained to do it, so I have to do it. And so those are really the only three reasons that we don't delegate. And so for leaders to come to this place to understand that, look, you got where you got because you were really good at something. And so it's really hard to give something away that you were really, really good at. And so for you to get to this place to go, look, I may only get 80% of what I could do if I did it myself. But if I'm doing that thing, I'm not working on the priority, the thing that only I can
Yes.
do,
The focus.
right? And giving 100% to that. So you're actually a net loss because this 100% thing is going undone instead of getting 80% here and 100% here. And so for them to really understand what is the most important thing, what is the priority, that which is most important, and then give yourself to that, and other things, give them away. Now, that's not to say that you ignore them and you hand them off and say, hope you can make it. You take the journey with them. But you understand that the end result may only be 80% of what you could have done if you did it by yourself, but you gave yourself 100% to this thing that only you could do, and the organization is better for it. You're better for it. The person that you've given it to, it's a kindness to them that you've allowed them to live in their strengths and to grow and get better so that maybe they can do it at 100% of
Yeah.
what you did.
Yeah.
Right. So it would be that. It would be set down and prioritize.
Yeah. And I
Ask
love
yourself,
it. And I think about the delete, the delegate, defer. I can't think of the other D at the moment, but that's what you're talking about. And I think at this time of the year, like we're so close to holidays and like, so what would be one priority you could focus on right now? And then anything else, delete it, delegate it, or defer it. There is another D, but it'll come back to me later. But like that's
and
ultimately what we're talking about. And then last question, or so you're giving your piece of advice. Have I got anything? What would you love to leave the show with?
what I'd love to leave the show with. I think it's is clarity is kindness. Like the clearer you are with people, the kinder that is to them because you set them up for success, right? And the clearer you are with your priority, the kinder it is to you. And sometimes that priority, the best thing of that priority is personal time
Yeah,
is
I love
to
it.
is to step away and know that you come back better than if you just keep barreling through. Because at the end of the day, remember, at the end of the day, your business is not going to be standing by your bedside when you die.
Yeah, so
So
true.
the so invest most heavily in those people who will be.
Yes, very cool. Great way to end the show, Chris. How do we find out more about Focused Consulting Group and how do we find out more about you?
Oh, probably easiest way you can go on my LinkedIn, it's just Khris Kennedy, or it's Khris. So my name's spelled a little weird. Or you can go on our website, Focused LC, focused with an ED, focusedlc.com. And you can kind of find out all about our consulting stuff and what we do and
Amazing.
clarity is kindness and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I feel like there's a book coming out of this for you, Clarity, and the title is Clarity is Kindness. I see a book in down the track.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe not. But yeah, I think it is all around, clarity is kindness and then ability to tap into those soft skills and, it's bringing that experienced and the new experience together and into the future of business. And it's that for me is around, what I do too in terms of reshaping life, leadership, and business. So thank you, Chris. Wishing you a wonderful rest of the week and tuning.
Thanks so much, B. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
All right. Bye.